members to discuss issues informally with staff and invited guests. The board encourages members of the public to attend work sessions and listen to the discussion, but there is generally no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome to do so during the board's regularly scheduled meeting. Tonight, we're going to have a conversation about the plastic bag ban. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. So a couple meetings ago, we mentioned that the cities of Gerhardt and the cities of Astoria have approached the county in regards to potentially having a county-wide ban on plastic bags. And so when that was brought to you guys, we had suggested a work session, and so here we are. Gail has put together some information in regards to some other cities that have bans on plastic bags, as well as, I drew a blank on what the standards, the American Society for Testing and Materials, and what some of their examples and recommendations are. And so to get started, this would be the first of its kind. There is no other county in Oregon that has established a county-wide ban. This would be new territory for Oregon counties. And so now we'll break it down, and Gail's just gonna go through the who, what, when, where of the process. And so I will turn it over to Gail.
Okay, thank you. So in breaking it down, we looked at, you know, who are we going to be working with, who will be our partners on this, who is going to be responsible, for example, for code enforcement. If we do a county-wide ban, will we have the cities be responsible for the individual code enforcement within their jurisdictions? If the county is going to be doing that, then which department should be handling that? Is it going to be public health? Is it going to be community development? And if the county's doing all the enforcement everywhere, how is that going to be funded? How are we going to break that funding up between the jurisdictions and the unincorporated areas? The other part of the who is, who are we going to include in this ban? Is it just grocers? Is it all types of retail sales? And do we have a scale that we're looking at? Are we going to exempt smaller establishments that maybe have 10 or fewer employees? Are we going to look at everyone? Are we going to target just some of the bigger retailers in the county, the Costco's and the Walmarts and the Home Depots? So those are things that we need to look at. And for terms of our work session today, I don't know if you want to take these kind of as a separate chunk and discuss them individually, or just wait till the end. So it's really at your discretion.
Piece by piece?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So I guess we'll start with the who then, if you have thoughts on any of these questions.
Pursuant to ORS 203-040, the exercise of police power in a city is not possible for a county. So as far as enforcement, that would have to be done pursuant to a city ordinance within the city boundaries. So the county's ordinance would only apply outside the unincorporated areas of the cities.
Really? Yeah.
So that makes it a little bit less of of what we're dealing with, a little.
How many businesses would be using plastic bags in the unincorporated area? Do we know? Are there any businesses?
There are businesses. There are several probably in the seaside area, and then if you go down 26, I know there are some businesses along that corridor. Westport, yeah, Swenson, Napa, that whole area.
But that changes things. So basically, if the county did it county-wide, one of the things that Mayor Lemire talked about was, you know, why should the city do it if the county can do it? But apparently, from what Heather says, our jurisdiction wouldn't cover the cities. So,
well, I suppose we could put a ban in, but we couldn't enforce it.
Right.
Because we don't have police power to do anything. And if you're going to impose a fine on someone, that's police power.
So it seems to me that we should be working with the cities that want it.
Mm-hmm.
And we could all do it if everybody wants it. The county, the cities.
And I haven't looked at this, but it may be possible for the cities to do an intergovernmental with us, assigning us their police power to enforce it. But that would be a city the city's the one that has the police power within their limits, but, I mean, we can contract with someone else to do some of our service, as well as cities contract with the sheriff's department all the time and other jurisdictions to enforce their police powers. So it could certainly be done as a countywide ordinance if all the cities
Right.
assigned to us their police power. So they would have to do that.
Okay.
And look, we're not going to have to, send out, folks to enforce this, basically. I don't know. I can't see any large store rebelling against and going ahead and, commanding an enforcement action. But I guess it could happen. Okay, that's interesting. That kind of changes the dynamic. So basically what you're saying is that it's possible, you haven't researched it yet, that the cities and the county could enter into some sort of agreement, which seems that puts us back on track a little bit.
So we could coordinate with
Yeah.
the cities if they're willing. We could get an intergovernmental agreement for enforcement. And having worked for a small employer, businesses often spend a lot of their money buying ahead plastic bags as a source of advertising. So if we could incrementally get into this, I think it would be better to give time for people to use up their stock so they're not wasting money buying materials they can't use.
Right.
And have some kind of transition period, because we don't want to work a hardship on anybody. And so how do we do this in a way that's as flexible and effective as possible?
And then in terms of who we'd want to include in the ban, in terms of retailers, are we looking just at grocers, or are we looking at all types of retail, would you expect?
I would think all.
Yeah. Bags are bags are bags.
Yeah, most small businesses, it's kind of, it's easy to go to paper bags. I mean, like at my shop, I basically, probably have 20 or 30 recycled plastic bags in another little bag that I've just collected. But most of my customers don't, use bags. So to me, it would be no hardship at all to switch over to paper.
In Corvallis, they don't have any kind of bags, either paper or plastic, unless you want to pay for them.
Right.
And people just get in the habit of either being cheap, like somebody I'm married to, and hold it in their arms and take the risk of dropping it, or they remember to carry bags in with them and have recyclables. So later on in here, you talked about the using a reusable bag that had the benefit of encouraging the appropriate behavior, and I don't know what the cost would be for that. I don't know if we could, I know when I go to the farmer's market, they pass out bags that have businesses' logos on them, and there's some offset because there's an advertising value. So I don't know if anybody's interested in getting their brand and having the county be part of, so that it's not only enforcement, but it's handing out at no charge to them bags that they can give to their customers to use that are reusable.
So another question would be, as far as on the enforcement side, to Gail's point as to the department that would be enforcing it and who would be paying for the enforcement.
That's my question.
I
How
think-
much is this going to cost?
Yeah.
But I think maybe it's premature to consider this until we work with the cities, till we see what, I mean, it could be moot if nobody really wants to do it anyway. So I don't know that we have to make that decision yet. I think it's important to hear from the cities. I think Gearhart wants to do it. Astoria wants to do it. I don't know about Seaside or Warrenton or Cannon Beach.
And then we should probably also talk with the unincorporated areas.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
That's right. That's our jurisdiction.
So if only Astoria and Gearhart were choosing to do it, would the county then not choose to do a countywide ban? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. I don't know.
I would like to also possibly add to this, and maybe this isn't, for me, this is also about recycling. Because when I was going online to read about the plastic bag or not the plastic bag issue, one of the arguments was Maybe we just need better education for people to recycle the bags that they do get. You know, I don't know.
There's no way to recycle plastic bags anymore, really. I mean, the grocers will take some of them, but really, nobody can tell me what they do with them. And now, because, you know, our whole recycling thing, that we were sending plastics to China, that's in question, we don't really know.
Well, exactly, that's why I thought that, because, I mean, when you look in your daily life, there's plastic absolutely everywhere. And plastic bags are a part of this picture, but it's just a part of the picture. So if what the intent behind this is to try to eliminate as much plastics as we can from the environment, can we do this in a more holistic way? And is there an answer to that? I don't know. You're right, China's not taking recycling. You know, what is the future for that? I mean, this could bring up a lot of questions that would be good to answer.
Yeah. There's cities in California now that are banning plastic straws because they're finding that those are causing a lot of harm to wildlife.
Portland too, and I'm going places where I get paper straws. It's kind of fun because they're making better, and I have bamboo straws at home that I use, but.
They have steel ones too, stainless steel, and they come with a little cleaner.
But, you know, I mean, there's,
I want one of
mining is
those.
not a clean industry.
Right.
And paper comes from, you know, unless you're going to use hemp products.
Well, I think
you know.
really the main focus here is to, like, you know, we've got plastic that hangs around for a long time. And this is kind of, it's a great, I hear you loud and clear about, you know, all the other, but I think, you know, I think if we stay focused on this, and this can be a stepping stone to other conversations.
Gradual.
Yeah.
But I would exempt pet waste bags. I'm telling you, I want heavy-duty pet waste bags.
Aren't pest
Plas-
waste bags already,
Do they
biodegradable?
compost?
No, some of them are.
Not the ones you want to
I
use.
don't know that, I was going to say, I don't know what how quickly they biodegrade. I know that you can commonly see them on the streets with stuff in them, and they've been there a while. And so I don't know that their lifespan is, it might be that it biodegrades in 2 years, but by then it's now in the water because.
Yeah. I want to segue a little bit. I went to the tourism conference, and they were, one of the things folks talked about was how to deal with visitors and locals so that we're all stewards of the land, which I thought was lovely. And they talked about having more trash cans, more receptacles to help people do the right thing. So whatever Charlie, I understand what you're saying about we want to contain this discussion, but I would also like to have us include the implications and the broader parameters, because if we're looking for how do we deal with trash, if we had someplace for people to put trash, we might have, she said hopefully, we might have less of it in the waterways, destroying wildlife and having other detrimental impacts. So it's a good topic. If we start here, let's have a plan for going forward and doing a more encompassing, but do it in a way that's gradual so that we're educating people and we're providing alternatives. We're considering carefully the cost and who pays it, and then we can get to and how do we enforce it, because it's education and enforcement and options. It's that three-legged stool.
Right.
And the question, like all plastic bags, I personally reuse the plastic bags. Like if I go to the store, I reuse them for garbage bags. So if I don't have those, then you know, you're buying a thicker plastic bag. I mean, these are a lot of good questions.
Yeah, and so, and then you get into, if it's just a single-use, non-compostable bag, you know, as far as the monitoring of that, who has the knowledge to know if, I mean, if you're going into the store, probably you can feel the difference between the two, but as far as just being able to have somebody say, oh, well, I saw a plastic bag come out of these stores, well, you know, then you're taking the time to go down there, and so the enforcement piece gets a little bit more complicated, a little bit more detailed, and And then, like you already mentioned, are there exemptions? So not just the pet waste bags, but, the produce bags and the bulk plastic bags in the bulk section of the store. And then again, the cost piece of it, what would the penalties for non-compliance be?
It would be nice to see kind of a breakdown, like some examples of what other municipalities or counties do around the country. That would be very helpful to us. And that would be, could give us a template to see, I mentioned earlier before the meeting started that when I was in Kauai, Walmart, and I don't know if it was a county ordinance, a city ordinance, or maybe Walmart, I don't know. So those would be,
What did you see in Kauai? I didn't hear that.
Walmart doesn't have any plastic bags.
Really?
Yeah.
A lot of places are going that way
You
now.
have to either bring your own or you can buy one there.
Right.
Yeah.
Good
So-
discussion, good information.
Yeah. Just as an example, and we can find more of these, but this is from McMinnville, I believe, yes, McMinnville. So they exempt, first of all, retail establishments with 10 or fewer employees, full-time employees. If you're getting your carry-out food, you can put that in a plastic bag. Let me see what else. Let's see, if you're part of a WIC program, you can get a recycled bag and you don't have to pay for either the paper or the plastic or bring your own bag. You can get a plastic bag. If you're at a farmer's market or a holiday fair, you can get a plastic bag from someone you buy stuff there. And there are a few others that would take me a minute. Yeah. So retail establishments or food providers greater than 10,000, that's who they affect. So, but they do have some exemptions in here, and I'm sure that there are others in other municipalities. I know that I saw one where they did exempt the pet waste bags, for example, from the requirements, so.
Yeah, that could help give us some guidance to know what other counties and cities are doing, yeah.
But what type of penalty would we want to impose, or could we even legally impose?
No,
None.
it's the city's problem. The only place we can impose is in the unincorporated area.
Right, unless we have an IGA, but then that brings us to, if we do find a violation under our jurisdiction.
It would hope that every city, that everybody would agree. I mean, basically, the only way this is going to work is if the cities, and if you want a countywide ordinance, it's only going to work if all of the cities are on board and all of the terms are the same and adopted by every city. And then they can just do an IGA with the county to enforce their ordinance.
Right, but,
So the terms are going to have to be agreed by
Okay.
both your board and every city council.
So I've seen here that this question for the board is going to result in a lot of staff time. Have you thought about how much staff time this is going to take to kind of do the research and kind of put together something? Because that's always a concern or a condition.
yeah, in terms of staff time, I think we would probably, rough guesstimate, I would guess between 10 and 20 hours just to answer the questions I'm getting tonight and do that research into other ordinances, how many businesses are there out in the county, anticipated costs, and things like that. So I would estimate 10 to 20 hours, just roughly.
So the question before the board in the immediate is, do we want staff to spend more time working towards this goal? 10, 20 hours over, a month or so, I don't have a problem with that. I'm
don't
just
either.
curious about consensus here on other concerns, because that's a real thing, staff time.
Are there people in the community that, outside of government jobs, that are interested in this? Do they have information to bring to the table?
This was just brought to us by mainly Mayor Lemire. The city of Astoria is interested in it, and then also the city of Gerhart has mentioned it as well. And so I believe Mayor Lemire thought, well, if this was something that the cities were doing, could we just have the county kind of oversee the whole process?
So I'm just wondering if maybe the city already has looked up these, can we share information?
They did initially share their ideal ordinance. They've done some research on it. They recommended Port Angeles ordinance. Angeles. Let's see. And so that was the one that we looked at first, and then I looked at McMinnville and Corvallis. There are a few others, and I put out a call to all the planning directors throughout the state just to see if any of them were familiar with it, and that's how I found out no other county has done this countywide, but there have been several other cities that have done it, so.
But I can see where, pardon me, I can see where Seaside might have more of an issue with this. I mean, that Safeway in Seaside, I'm told, is the busiest one in the state of Oregon.
I've heard that, yeah.
So there's a huge volume that comes through there, and I would like to have their cooperation and their assent to go forward with it and not just do something to them.
Yeah.
So I assume the Seaside City Council, the mayor, the city manager would have something to say about that.
Yeah, each city would have to sign up for this.
Yeah,
So
but
that's part of the initial outreach.
Seaside, I would check with
Seaside?
because I would anticipate that might having the most impact there, and they might have the most concerns. So-
Earlier in the conversation today before the I talked to Sam across the street at the little store, and he says that he supports the ban, but he thinks that we need to address and mitigate a lot of different little issues like the ones we've talked about tonight. But
So, Mr. Chair, I suspect that this is probably accurate, although I haven't done the research, that the origin of the vast majority of, plastic bags we may see in the county start in a city someplace. There just aren't that many large retailers in the unincorporated areas. So it kind of seems to me to make sense to, let's see where the cities go with this. And, I don't know that we should do tons more research on it until we see whether this is picking up any momentum, with any of the cities.
I think you're right, yeah.
I would say it's important for the cities to know that we would like this, we are supportive of this, but we don't have jurisdiction over the cities. And we would like cooperation and a partnership so that we could all benefit from this. I think it's important how it's presented to them.
I think our message to them should be, we'd be happy to cooperate with you on a countywide ban, but, we need to see the cities move forward first, because that's probably where most of the action is, so to speak.
Well,
And I also would like to see outreach to the retailers and see what they have to say about it, since they're on the main lines. So what do they think about it?
Yeah, and that's kind of I think we've covered a lot of this, is, getting the cities involved up front, getting the retailers involved up front, because I think we've learned that going through the lodging tax. It's better to be proactive in your discussions. And then my other question is, and I think Commissioner Thompson touched on this, is do we just initiate it immediately, or is there sort of this incremental or grace period where we're
Yes.
breaking people in? So
I think a grace period is...
Gradually.
Yeah, people need to transition, but I don't know about talking to all the retailers, because, it's my experience that people will adapt, and, if they know something is coming, everybody will adapt. If one or two retailers or 5 or 6 say, oh, no, we don't want that, do we say, oh, okay, then we're not going to do it? It's either the best practice, and we support it with the cities.
But being proactive again, because I agree, we don't want to simply get derailed, but having the respect to collaborate with our partners. So if I could suggest speaking not only with the chambers of commerce, Astoria, Warrenton, and Seaside and Cannon Beach, for example, but also to the visitor centers. Because if we're going to have this county-wide effort, and it's going to be in the cities and in the unincorporated areas, there will be an effect on visitors who come here. And we want to be able to educate them, and the people who have a big role in doing that are the visitor centers. And so, again, to have their cooperation and their buy-in by consulting with them whenever possible, I think makes good sense.
Yeah. So it sounds like the starting point's the cities here. Get all the cities on board, then it kind of gives us the incentive to move forward.
okay.
So that, I guess, where we would want to direct our energies first.
I think if the cities want to, they can talk to their retailers. I don't know how many are in the county. So let the cities do that. That can be part of the conversation.
So kind of touched on these things as well, just, as far as having the be phased in as far as the ban goes. Is it large retailers first and incorporated areas first? How would we go about educating the public? Would kind of an outreach opportunity be that the counties and cities provide every household with a reusable bag with their logo on it? And then the why, again, back to the environmental considerations, and then using a reusable bag is more cost efficient for the consumer than paying a 5-cent fee for a paper or a compostable plastic bag.
Is it, on that, I'm sorry, on that one, I had heard, was it San Francisco or one of the cities that charges for the plastic bags that are used?
Yep.
And so you hadn't heard that?
I know that there
are some
are
cities
cities
that do
in
that.
California that you have to pay, 10 cents for a paper bag.
So it's certainly more cost efficient for the consumer to use, to reuse the bag. Is there any numbers about a system that charges people to use a plastic bag versus banning the plastic bag and enforcement?
Yeah, a lot of the ordinances I looked at charge 5 cents if you want a plastic bag, and you pay 5 cents per bag, whether it's plastic or paper. Like Monica said, there are some jurisdictions that charge more. Some jurisdictions don't require a fee, but a lot of them did require that 5-cent fee.
And so do we know anything more about how successful that program is? Those programs? No?
No.
Okay.
I,
Like get her lumping.
I don't see how, I don't know, maybe that does work. The only thing I can see that helps is with deterrence. And if we're talking about low-income people, I think it would hurt them because they may not pay attention to 5 cents, 5 cents, 5 cents, 5 cents every time they go to the grocery store. It's not that hard to have a bag. I mean, there's a gajillion bags in our lives to just take a bag. It's all habit. That's really what it is. I mean, there's whole regions in Europe where nobody gives you a bag. You just get in the habit of taking your bag. That's just the way it is.
My dad mentioned to me, he has a photo of the Hooverville in Seattle during the Depression. And one of the comments people make over and over again about this picture in the mid-30s in Seattle is that the Hooverville, there is no trash. Mm-hmm. There is no trash. And first of all, they didn't have plastic bags back then, but people were so poor that people collected rags and paper or whatever they could find. And it's kind of an interesting thing. I think it shows how the society's changed so quickly to the throwaway, It's kind of an interesting sideline. Okay, so any other, I think we're kind of clear. We want to get the cities on board, right? Yeah, and that's kind of the first step before we, spend too much time at this. Fair enough.
Any
Okay.
other questions?
Any questions?
I
Thank
think
you for,
It's a good thing to do. I mean, it
Yes.
really is a
Yes.
good thing to do
Yeah, I-
because it lasts forever until it's made into something else, and it clogs everywhere. I mean, Surfrider does the oceans, the sands.
yeah. They just
Did
sent
you-
the
did
ship
you-
out into the middle of the Pacific to try to vacuum up the,
Did anybody see the mockumentary on YouTube on the plastic bag? I'll send you a link.
We should show that next time. We should have good entertainment at our meetings.
Just as far as a plug for recycling, there is a program through Recology, and there are, I believe, 3 artists who are going out. They are able to go to Recology and kind of siphon through all the trash there, and they are recreating art from the garbage that they find out there, and they will be at the second Saturday Art Walk in October. They will be showing their recycled art.
oh, cool.
Great.
So,
And last year's
If
show
I
was
find
really
that,
good.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Last year's show was really good. They did this program last year as well. so.
If
Thank
I
you.
find that link, can I send it to you?
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thanks.
Okay, that concludes our work session. We'll begin our regular session at 6 p.m.